She was just a girl with a mop and a dream, cleaning a rundown clubhouse for pennies a day. But what she didn't know was that lurking in the shadows were some of the most feared men in the world, the Hell Angels. They weren't just there to watch, they were testing her. What came next would change everything she thought she knew about loyalty, survival, and courage. Imagine showing up to what looks like an ordinary clubhouse, doors battered, paint peeling, the smell of stale smoke and oil heavy in the air. Most people wouldn't give it a second glance, but for one young woman, it was her new job. No fancy pay, no promises. Just a mop, some rags, and a willingness to wade through the grime. At first glance, it was just a rough gig, but this was far from ordinary, and she was about to learn that the Hell Angels' world was a brutal crucible where only the toughest survive. The Hell Angels. Just saying the name sends chills through some. Formed in the 1940s, they grew from a small motorcycle club into an international force. They're not the kind of people you want to cross paths with unless you're ready to face their world. A world ruled by its own codes, silent warnings, and unspoken respect. To outsiders, they're often portrayed as ruthless rebels, but behind the leather jackets and roaring engines lies a complex society, as tightly knit as any family and just as dangerous if you betray their trust. So, who was this girl? What made her take on a job cleaning up the Hell Angels clubhouse? And more importantly, how did she stay alive and even earn their grudging respect? Let's rewind a little. She wasn't some hardened biker or outlaw herself. She came from nowhere near their world. A quiet neighborhood, a modest upbringing, and a steady but unremarkable life. She needed money, and when she heard the job offer, it seemed straightforward enough. Clean the clubhouse a few times a week. Simple, but simplicity is often a mask. On her first day, stepping into that clubhouse felt like crossing into another dimension. The walls were plastered with patches and posters, the air thick with cigarette smoke and the heavy tang of motor oil. The silence wasn't peaceful, it was watchful. She wasn't just cleaning, she was being observed. Every move she made was being sized up, every glance noted. The Hell Angels weren't just letting anyone slip past. They wanted to see if she was worth their time, if she could handle the unspoken rules of their world. It wasn't just about scrubbing floors or wiping down tables, it was about trust. And trust in their world is earned in the smallest ways. One afternoon, as she was scrubbing a stubborn stain near the bar, one of the older Hell Angels, grizzled, tattooed, with that unmistakable air of authority, came in. He didn't say much at first, just watched. She kept working, steady and silent. Then he said something simple, almost like a test. Don't miss a spot. No pressure, right? But in that moment, it wasn't just about the floor. It was a challenge. Could she follow directions under eyes that never blinked? Could she take criticism without flinching? She finished the job, spotlessly clean. The man nodded and left, but that nod was the first crack in the icy wall between her and the club. She would learn soon enough that these men live by code. Respect is earned through consistency, and respect in return. They watch how you react under pressure, how you handle silence, and most of all, how you don't betray their trust. Every handshake, every glance, every shared cigarette carries meaning. These aren't casual interactions, they're rituals. A week into her job, she found out she wasn't just cleaning a clubhouse, she was lab testing. One evening, the clubhouse was buzzing louder than usual. Engines thundered outside, voices booming. The air was thick with tension, and she could feel it. The Hell Angels were gathered for a meeting, and she was still there cleaning. Suddenly, one of the bikers approached her, an imposing figure with a scar running down his cheek. "Put down the mop," he said, "and pour us all a drink." It wasn't a request. She hesitated, but something in his gaze told her that hesitation could be costly. She obeyed, moving quickly but carefully. That moment was another test, not just of obedience, but of composure. Could she serve these men without showing fear or disrespect? Could she keep her wits when surrounded by raw power and danger? She did, and slowly the atmosphere shifted. They began to see her as more than just a hired cleaner. An unspoken acknowledgement passed through their ranks. She might just be one of them. It's easy to imagine such a story ending in disaster. The Hell Angels are notorious for their volatility, their quick tempers, their ironclad loyalty to each other. But this young woman wasn't there to join a gang or steal secrets. She was just there to work and survive. Yet survival required more than just a mop and bucket. It demanded understanding their language, their codes, and their respect. One night, after a particularly long cleaning shift, a smaller biker approached her quietly. Not one of the big intimidating ones, but someone who seemed to carry himself with quiet strength. "You're doing good," he said, "but you gotta know, this isn't just about cleaning. It's about knowing where you stand. You can't be afraid if you want to be here." She asked him, "Where do I stand?" He replied, "Right here, with us. But you gotta be honest, we don't like lies. Honesty, that was the key. Not just truthfulness in words, but authenticity in presence. The Hell Angels trust those who are real, who don't pretend, who don't fake. It is a harsh truth for anyone stepping into their world. They will test you, and every test is designed to see if you belong. Her story isn't just about a girl cleaning a clubhouse. It's about the unexpected intersections of worlds that rarely meet. A world of dirty floors and outlaw brothers, of whispered threats and silent alliances. It's about bravery not in battles or gunfights, but in the quiet persistence to prove your worth in a place where worth means survival. What lessons can we take from this? Sometimes the most dangerous places require the simplest acts of courage. Sometimes being underestimated is the best weapon you can have. She cleaned floors, sure, but what she really did was navigate a labyrinth of silent tests, prove her mettle one stain at a time, and carve out a space where no one expected her to be. And in the end, those men who rode roaring motorcycles and lived by iron wills looked at her not just as a cleaner, but as an unexpected ally. They tested her with everything they had, and she didn't just pass. She earned their respect. This story reminds us that strength isn't always about muscle or violence. Sometimes it's about showing up, doing the work, and standing firm when the world around you is watching, even when that world is the notorious Hell Angels. So next time you see a rundown clubhouse, a mop, and a person quietly working away, remember, they might be doing a lot more than just cleaning. They might be surviving, thriving, and rewriting what it means to belong. Her experience didn't stop at cleaning or earning respect inside those walls. In fact, it was just the beginning of a deeper journey, one that revealed the unexpected layers beneath the tough exterior of the Hell Angels. She started to notice the subtle codes that governed their behavior. How they communicated without words. How loyalty was more than a concept. It was a daily practice. On another evening, as she was mopping near a corner of the garage, a younger member approached her. Not one of the old-timers who ruled with a grizzled glare, but more of a wild card, someone freshly patched into the club. He wasn't hostile, but there was a challenge in his eyes. "You ever ride?" he asked casually. She shook her head. There was no pretense in her answer. That honesty seemed to matter. He nodded knowingly and said, "Good, you don't want to ride with us unless you're ready for more than the road. We're a family, sure, but the road isn't always pretty." That line stuck with her because it shed light on the duality of the Hell Angels. To outsiders, they're all leather and noise, but within those walls, they were a family. Messy, dangerous, but family nonetheless. And the road they spoke of wasn't just miles on a bike. It was the path of loyalty, consequences, and survival. Weeks turned into months. She found herself not just cleaning, but becoming part of the rhythm of that world. She learned who to avoid, who could be trusted, and how the smallest gesture, a nod, a look, a shared cigarette, could shift her fate in an instant. It was a dance with invisible rules, and she was learning the steps. One night, as she was locking up, a heated argument broke out inside. Voices rose, sharp with anger. She could hear the tension crackling through the walls. It wasn't unusual. These men lived with a fire that could ignite quickly. But this time, it was different. The fight was personal, the stakes higher. Without thinking, she stepped closer, just to listen. That's when one of the older Hell Angels called her name. The room fell silent, all eyes on her. She was frozen for a second, unsure if she was about to be thrown out or pulled deeper in. Instead, the leader spoke. "You want to help. Don't just clean floors and show up. Stand here, watch, learn." It was an invitation disguised as a command. She realized then that cleaning was her way in, but understanding was her true passage. That night, amidst raised voices and tense silences, she saw the loyalty, the fury, and the unspoken bond that held these men together. Later, one of the quieter members pulled her aside. "You'll see a lot here," he said softly. "Some of it ugly, some of it beautiful. You choose what you take with you." Those words echoed long after the clubhouse was dark and the roar of motorcycles faded into the night. Her role became more than cleaning. She became a confidant, someone these men trusted to carry their stories, their secrets. It's strange to imagine, but in that rough clubhouse, a girl with a mop held a unique power, a bridge between worlds that rarely crossed paths. This wasn't a story of sudden transformation or Hollywood heroics. It was about the slow, deliberate building of trust in an environment where betrayal meant danger. Every sweep of the broom, every scrubbed surface marked her commitment. In these small acts, she carved out a safe place for herself. But it wasn't easy. The Hell Angels could be unpredictable. One night, after a party spilled late into the early hours, a situation escalated beyond control. A fight broke out. She found herself in the middle, not by choice, but by circumstance. The air split with shouts and the clang of fists on metal. She was pushed and jostled, but something inside her held firm. Instead of fleeing, she stayed. Witnessing their chaos gave her insight she never expected. These men, for all their roughness, protected their own. After the fight, amid the bruises and the silence, a new kind of respect settled around her. She wasn't just the girl who cleaned. She was part of the club's story now, a living proof that respect could be earned in unexpected ways. This experience shows us something important, the idea that strength and belonging take many forms. You don't have to be the loudest or the most intimidating to be accepted. Sometimes it's the quiet resilience that matters most. Her story also shines a light on the misconception many people have about groups like the Hell Angels. Yes, they've earned a reputation for violence, but beneath that surface is a fiercely guarded code of honor. Loyalty, honesty, and respect aren't just words. They're the pillars that hold their world together. And she learned that firsthand, simply by showing up and being real. The final test came when the club was facing external pressure, from rival clubs, from law enforcement, from the constant threat of being pushed out or taken down. In moments like these, every member had to prove their worth, no matter how small their role. One night, when tensions were at their peak, she was asked to help in a way that went beyond cleaning. It wasn't dangerous in the traditional sense, but it required her to be calm under pressure, to hold secrets, and to be trusted implicitly. She was asked to deliver a message, simple on the surface but heavy with consequences. What made this task so critical wasn't the message itself, but the trust placed in her to carry it without faltering. If she succeeded, she reinforced her place in the club. If she failed, it could mean everything unraveling. She delivered it without hesitation. No mistakes, no second guesses. It was a quiet victory, but in that world, quiet victories counted. Looking back, it's clear that this young woman's journey was never about the paycheck. It was about navigating a crucible of loyalty and respect in a place most would never dare enter. She proved that courage can be quiet, and that sometimes the most unlikely people become the unexpected pillars of strength. Her story challenges us to rethink how we see people on the fringes of society. It reminds us that every world has its own rules, its own values, and that trust is the currency that holds it all together. Whether that world is a corporate office, a tight-knit family, or a motorcycle club known as the Hell Angels. So the next time you hear a name that inspires fear or judgment, remember that behind every label is a story, and often those stories are far more complex than the image we have in our minds. For her, a mop and bucket were never just tools for cleaning. They were her ticket to survival, her way to break through walls built by fear and reputation. And in doing so, she taught the Hell Angels, and perhaps all of us, a lesson about what it means to be seen, to belong, and to be respected in a world that doesn't easily give either away. Her story lives on as a quiet testament to the power of persistence, honesty, and the unexpected places where we find courage. It's a reminder that sometimes the greatest strength comes not from fighting the toughest battles, but from simply showing up and staying true to who you are.